So hi, my name's Chet Huber. I'm on the faculty here at the Harvard Business School. I teach BSSE. I've actually taught it for 7 years, so I've just started my 8th year teaching it. What we do in class, in order to bring the frameworks to life with things that are happening today, we actually one day in every week bring an example of a current event that is intersecting in some way with the frameworks, so give us a chance to talk about it. Maybe not just about U.S. Steel, maybe not just about Sonocite and Nipro, but about something else that's happening. This year so far we've done one on the advertising business with J. Walter Thompson, what's happening with the disruption of that whole industry and how they're trying to respond. I actually have one tomorrow that I'm going to be doing on jobs to be done and branding, and it's about Ferrari's launching a new product in a new category for them, a sport utility vehicle, which I find actually pretty interesting and in some ways kind of funny. The one that I used for the first current event this year was Samsung. And Samsung's stated interest to create the largest cell phone factory in the world in India, specifically to address the challenge that they're facing of the emergence of a significant range of competitive pressure from Chinese manufacturers attacking them at the low end. And so it's a great place to actually explore the frameworks. We had just encountered disruption as a framework for the students at this point. And so the question is, what's Samsung trying to do? Are they attempting to fundamentally alter their approach to competing? Because clearly today we would say they compete in the majority of their market towards the high end next to Apple. And Apple has this interdependent solution that they approach, and Samsung is kind of the modular player adopting the Android operating system and creating their own way to get at this high-end positioning. And they're all watching now as the lower end of the market gets eaten away by these competitors who start with very feature-deficient smartphones, but also start with very low-cost business models. And so here's Samsung feeling the pressure at both ends, which is very classic, right? So they find themselves, kind of in this fight with Apple, who might have some more headroom on the high end and clearly has higher margins than Samsung because of their interdependent solution, and they're now finding themselves in a big fight for the low end with these competitors that are honing their skills in markets far afield from the ones that they've satisfied before. This kind of servicing of non-demand in China, the very low end people that could not consume before because the prices were too high, and now in India. And so I think the fun questions to ask here is Samsung really trying to be disruptive, and who would they be disruptive to? And my thought of this is the disruption has started. The low-cost manufacturers with lower featured smartphones are already embedded and in place and moving up their own sustaining path. So Samsung really isn't disrupting the market. The market is in the process of being disrupted by these low-end, low-cost model cell phone providers. So they're attempting to participate in that market. So they're attempting to enter in a sustaining way in that particular business. And so you'd say, okay, so that must be sustaining to Samsung. But I don't think so, because Samsung is built, and they have their RPPs, and they have their approach to what they're trying to solve for, built essentially aimed primarily at the upmarket and at Apple. So it is disruptive. What they're trying to do is disruptive, in my sense, and I think the way the frameworks would look at this, to their own business model, but not at all disruptive to the folks that are already competing, these Chinese manufacturers. And so the first question I would ask to get some sense of how are they thinking about this would be, how are they organizing this effort? Our current event didn't really say with a lot of precision how they're organized, but again, our frameworks would suggest that they would need to abstract their approach to this very low-end model, this very low-cost model, with a different business model and probably a different organization that would be allowed to prioritize and potentially cannibalize their higher-end business through the pursuit of this lower cost business model. The other question I think that's going to be a finesse question for them to answer, and it would be interesting to know how they're thinking about it, is for their brand. So if they want to participate in both of these positionings and they have a brand position of some cachet with the Samsung brand in their high end, what do they want to be careful of relative to how they execute this lower cost, more focused approach to attacking these lower end competitors with the Samsung brand? Would they sub-brand it? Would they try to do an endorser brand, which we would suggest that might be a little risky at this low price point? Or would they want to kind of be totally separate? In which case they feel like they would probably give up some of the cachet that they have with their Samsung brand. So it's an awesome place to explore the tensions, the reality of how hard it is to position, to address multiple places in the market. And frankly, it's also kind of another great example of if you wait too long and these new entrants, particularly these low-end entrants, get a foothold, then they're way more challenging to kind of upend and participate in because they've already got their own momentum starting to build than had you addressed it much quicker.